First we'll disconnect the battery. Use a 10mm wrench. Loosen up the negative terminal. Make sure you don't arc it out on the positive. And set it aside. I'm going to remove this bracket right here. Use a 10mm socket. And pull that bolt out. And just slide this to the side. Take this cover off. There's 10mm bolts right here and here. Use a 10mm socket. And grab this cover and just slide it out of the way. Take this bolt out right here. Use a 10mm socket. You can grab the coil, slide it up a little bit. It makes it easier to disconnect the connector. Push down on the connector and slide it off. Slide the coil out. Now we can do the same with the other coils. Take this hose off, just use some hose clamp pliers and move this hose clamp down the hose. And use some hose pliers and remove that hose. There's a bracket on the side of the valve cover. Use a 10mm socket and take those bolts out. You can take this hose off if you want to, or you can just slide it out of the way. Use a 10mm socket, remove the nuts on top. There's two in the back right there, don't forget those. You can pull these seals off. Just use a pick or a screwdriver. Take all of those out. Now pull the dipstick out, set it aside. Now just grab the valve cover and slide it up a little bit. Grab this harness and just push it up, push it aside. And slide it up. Now if the gasket's still stuck to the head, just pull the gasket off. Now we're going to clean up the valve cover, take the oil cap off. And we want to remove these seals. And you can try to get them from the inside with a straight blade screwdriver or from up top. And just take the screwdriver and give it a tap. Trying not to score the sides. And just pop them out. Just like that. Just be careful. Looks good. Do the same for the other ones. Now with all those out, you can take some brake parts cleaner and clean this all out, or use a parts washer. You want to clean this gasket area on the head. Just be careful, don't get any of the sand into the engine. Just try to wipe it away. And in some of the corners, there's some RTV. You want to clean that up as well. Install the new seals once this is all cleaned up. Just install them the same way the old ones came out. You can take a socket that fits right around the perimeter of the seal and just tap them in. And do the same with the other ones. Take the new gasket and just slide it in position. And it should stay in there. Now before we put the valve cover on, take a little bit of RTV, and in the areas where it was when you took it apart, just put a little dab. mostly in the places where the case splits. In the corners. And fairly quickly, after you use that RTV, put the valve cover back on. Make sure the gasket doesn't fall off while you're doing this. There you go. Install these new bushings. And install the nuts. And torque these to 8.7 foot-pounds from the center out. You can put the dipstick back in at this time. And reinstall the oil cap. I'm going to take this wiring harness and slide it in position. Now I'll get this bracket over here lined up before we put that hose on. And put the bolts in. And tighten these down. Just snug them up. Install this hose. And use some hose clamp pliers. And slide that in position. Now take the coils, reinstall the coils. Connect the connector, lock it in place. And get the bolt started. And tighten that down, do the same for the rest. And slide this hose back in position or reconnect it if you disconnected it. Now take this cover and slide that in position. Put the bolts back in. And tighten them down. And line this bracket up, put the bolt in. And tighten it down. Take the battery cable, put it back on the battery, and tighten it down. Make sure it's snug.